Now, we have seen a giant homeland security movement in this nation to demonize patriots, people that prepare, people that homeschool. It's already done. The die's already cast. I mean, the Justice Department has now been caught, and it's been confirmed, in perjury, shipping guns themselves to Mexico, not just selling them out of gun shops, to destabilize Mexico, to take control of other drug cartels, and to then blame the Second Amendment. That's CBS News, New York Times. They are criminals. So the sky is the limit. And I've told you this for years. The banker bailouts, what's happening in Europe, they're going to implode the world economy to bring in the world government. You've heard Lindsey Williams. You've heard Gerald Celente, Max Kaiser. You've heard Steve Pachinik. They all agree. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, Bob Chapman, Ron Paul. Collapse. Collapse by design. And so I get up here. Many revolutionaries finance the revolution by robbing banks or by robbing stagecoaches in the old days. The Founding Fathers did that, you know, by taking British ships. We don't do that. We use the free market system promoting things I believe in to fund the nightly news, the daily radio show / TV, the award-winning films that reach tens of millions apiece, the websites that reach millions a day now, with the truth. We don't do like the communists and others, you know, in modern times out robbing people to fund themselves. I promote things I believe in. And now everybody's getting into the food business. It is hysterical. I listened to San Antonio radio. I listened to 2 radio stations this morning. San Antonio AM, in between listening to voice messages. And then I tuned to 93.7 KLBJ and heard an ad for a storable food company saying, don't end up at the FEMA camp. Basically, you know, never stand on a bread line if you own your own bread, taking everything that, you know, Steve Shanks basically put out over the years and saying it. I mean, that means it's at all-time proportions when everywhere I tune and on TV I see storable food, storable food. The funny thing is, we're not going to be mean and say the companies. Most of these companies you see out there are either selling old food or foreign food that's still somewhat old, or they're trying to get Steve Shank, who's got the biggest factories, the biggest outfits in the country, to have him produce for him. And he's so busy, he's like, no, I'm not doing it. And a lot of people claim they're the oldest or they're the best. No, Steve Shank is. I've looked into it. And he's where I've gotten my storable food. I bought at other places and it had MSG or weird stuff or was made in China. Just incredible. I get my storable foods from efoodsdirect.com. Now, I didn't get him on today. I got him on to be an informational expert for us because of what's happening in the country. And then I automatically turn into a food pitch. Because with my sponsors, I believe in them. I promote what I do. Gold, silver, food, guns. Pro-family. I mean, I homeschooling, I do it. You know, whatever you hear me promote, I do it. Except for one area, because some things we can't buy that aren't made in Mexico or somewhere else. Most of our products are made in America. Some aren't. Or part of it isn't. You know, the glue for the DVDs is made in China. Sorry, they don't make it anywhere else. You know, I mean, stuff like, yeah, they're made in the U.S., but part of it's from China. The point is, I walk the walk, I talk the talk. And then when I talk the talk, I walk the walk. So I got Steve on. We'll have him this segment, the next, and then into 8 after. So part of a segment, then 2 others, because I got him on a little bit late here. I called him and said, please come on, because, you know, we're getting calls from people saying that they're calling you and all this stuff because of 2 different news articles I've got here in front of me. Here is News Channel 5.com, one of the big TV stations there in Tennessee, in Nashville. And it says that for emergencies, they're doing door-to-door assessment for disaster preparedness. And our contacts in Tennessee have confirmed, they won't say what the 22 questions are, but it's, do you own firearms? Do you have storable food? The news says they ask 22 questions, but then don't tell you the 22 questions. So we know. So we have this article. Then Stuart Rhodes has confirmed he knows the name of the place there. Don't want to be public. It's a small Mormon cannery, you know, where they sell storable foods. People can bring their own, farmers, and get it stored because they believe not just in selling you food, they want to teach you how to do it, which everybody used to do. My grandparents on my dad's side, you know, canned till the day they died. And I guess that's weird and evil, but that's what, you know, the grasshoppers don't store food. The ant does, and the ant survives. But continuing here, any frontier stock are into storing food. It's just it's fun to do. It's good to can your own food, and you do it. But their Tennessee chapter head, Rand Cardwell, went to it, confirmed. They went to this Mormon cannery. The feds came in, Fema, and wanted to know their list of who was buying food. And they said, A, we don't keep list, and B, we're not going to give it to you. You don't have a warrant. Get out of here. But this story's gone huge. It's just absolutely gone huge. And so people have been calling us. They've been calling eFoods saying, well, have the feds come to you? No. Read the article. It's not eFoods Direct. It's a small outfit. So we don't know if there's some group they sold to that the government's concerned about. But why would you be concerned about, dried peas or whatever? But I believe because of Tennessee and the checkpoints and everything, it's a testing site with the roadside checkpoints, the TSA, all of it is centering around Tennessee and the states that are around it. That's the center of the country, the heartland of the nation, the volunteer state. And Tennessee was basically founded in Texas. Most of my ancestors were from Alabama and Tennessee. The point is that, talk about Texas, rootin' tootin', fighting for freedom. That's all out of Tennessee. So the system does not like Tennessee. Period. And there's definitely stuff going on there, but we don't know exactly what's happening yet. But you add this into other stuff that's gone on, and executive orders about, food hoarding. So with one arm, the government says, get ready, store food. And then with the other, though, then it's like, ooh, I had the awesome police chief here a couple days ago in studio, and after he's like, why are you into storing food, Alex? And I'm like, well, the government stores stuff, food and weapons. So, and the cops all that were with him thought it was, well, I guess they were laughing at him or me. They claimed they were listeners. But the point is, you're crazy with all this coming down on you to count on the government to have storable food for you. So I'm a long 5-6 minute preface. We'll keep them as long as we have to get this covered and then go to Bob Chapman. But Steve Shank, you are the national expert. That's why I've got you here. You've been in this 40 years. You are the big outfit. You are the quality food. You are the real McCoy. You're not all these other people rushing in now that folks are finally concerned in getting food. You were country when country wasn't cool. You were canning food and when it wasn't cool because it's part of your common sense belief system. So you are the preeminent expert on this. That's why we've got you here. But I'm still going to turn it into a pitch for food because I don't care. People need to get it. I know you said, I'm not coming on to pitch food. And I said, I want you on to be our expert. So you're here. Tell us what's going on.
It's awesome.
We've got Steve Shank joining us for the first time ever from video Skype. Steve, are you there?
I am, Alex. It's nice to hear your voice again.
It's good to have you. We're going to break in a few minutes. I'm long-winded. But break down your view at a preliminary level on this information from Tennessee.
Well, I think it's really interesting that one of the things that we've always done, Alex, is we've concluded that everything has an advantage for us if we look at it the right way. When the Patriot Act was passed and it was indicated that if you had a disaster and you weren't capable of sustaining yourself for 30 days, that you'd be required to go to a gathering center. This was quite offensive in some perspectives, but if you think about it, if in fact the relief organizations were going to try to support the people who hadn't properly taken care of themselves, they'd have a really hard time delivering breakfast, lunch, and dinner to 5 million homes at any given point in time. Cannot be done. That's the strongest argument for families actually taking responsibility for themselves. So what we've always said, and you and I've had many conversations on this subject, is that those who are capable of preparing and taking care of themselves must do it. It's not only their personal responsibility to their families, but it's their patriotic duty as Americans to take care of themselves so that the relief organizations who are willing and prepared to take care of families can be free to take care of those who are unable or unwilling to take care of themselves when the disasters come. So much more a common sense perspective. Let me address immediately the subject of the Tennessee issue. As I understand it, some agents went in and were asking one of the LDS cannery operations for their records, and appropriately the response was, no, we don't keep records of things like that. It's not something that we do. And in our case, we're a large nationwide organization. We're shipping food all over the country, and we're into other countries, in fact. And so food is a very private and personal thing. If you walked up to your friend and said, how much money do you have in your savings account? They'd consider it kind of offensive. Some people in the climate that we have, if you walked up to them and said, how many guns do you have? They'd consider it somewhat offensive, and that would be private, personal information. How much gold do you have? That type of thing is what the German government's tried to get the kids to tell their parents by giving them candy during World War II. But the fact is that, very simply, food is so personal. It's the greatest dependency that we have. And the wisdom of preparing yourself and storing and having the ability to control that. You see, people can't control the disasters that occur, the man-made events that are referred to in some of the FEMA council to get prepared. People can't control any of that, but they can control their greatest dependency by having a supply of food. So having said that, very simply, our perspective on the records that we have of people that use their credit cards and pay cash and do whatever they do to get themselves in a situation where they have reliable security for their family, all of those records are encrypted, kept off-site, and very, very secure. And we don't see that as necessary because of the federal government being hostile. We see that as just an extremely important issue of privacy. You can't go into a bank and say to the manager of the bank, hey, listen, I know John Schmelz, and I want to know how much money is in his account. That's a personal thing. And your food being even more basic than money, being even more basic than ammunition and guns, being even more basic than just about anything else, for families that are concerned about taking responsibility and fulfilling their patriotic duty to be responsible Americans and take care of themselves, that's a very private matter, and it's just as secure and just as importantly done so as would be your bank account or anything else that you have.
Well, Steve, very, very I mean, what does this tell us, though? Because we know that police departments, state departments, they've been hoarding food for years now. The fact that they are wanting to know this, why do you think they're going door to door in Tennessee? Why are they focusing on Tennessee? Is Tennessee a beta test? I mean, what's your gut on that?
Well, my gut is that yes, it can possibly be.
Hey, I love that ringer. That's awesome. Go ahead and start over.
My gut feel on the Tennessee issue is that there are elements within the federal organization that are interested in tracking and finding out what's going on with the folks. You can look at it from a positive standpoint and say, well, gee whiz. Now, I know that some of the work in Tennessee is being done by just saying, hey, we want to make sure people are listening to us and preparing, and we want to take a survey to see how many people are doing it so we can encourage it more. Unfortunately, from our past history, that has not been the motivation in many cases for gathering information on the part of the system. So I think that it would be well taken by families to be concerned with this. I would think that it would cause people, if there is that much interest and it is somewhat negative from the standpoint of our personal freedoms, I would think that the wise thing for families to do is to take this as maybe a red flag that says, hey guys, if it's that much of a concern and it could be a negative issue, it might be something that people need to consider really getting serious about getting themselves prepared.
Well, that's my next point, is that Government has always made fun of being prepared because they want you dependent. Unless you're in Switzerland, where they've got their head screwed on straight. They say, have a year of food, have firearms, know how to use them. That's because Switzerland wants to be sovereign and secure. And then expanding on that, now the feds, as you know, the last few years do have billboards up. They are saying have some storable food. But I think that's just so when things collapse, they can say, oh, see, we warned you, knowing most people really aren't getting prepared. But, I mean, look at all the stuff that's happening. Everything we talked about years ago is coming true. It's just, this is real insurance. You can't believe in paper insurance. You can't believe in a paper dollar the way this world's going.